After years of emotional manipulation, my mom assumed she could move into my dream home, but I finally said no and my whole family turned on me for setting a boundary. "I'm not moving back to that dump, Clara," my mom said, standing in my new driveway with 2 suitcases, a potted fern, and not a single trace of irony. I hadn't even had time to hang my wind chimes. The sunroom still smelled like fresh paint, the garden hadn't seen its first bloom, and my dog, newly adopted, was still getting used to peeing in the same spot. And yet there she was, Patricia Kelly, self-declared matriarch, dressed like she was on vacation in the Hamptons, fully expecting me to welcome her into the house I'd saved up for over a decade to afford. "Did you bring all your stuff?" I asked, voice caught somewhere between a whisper and a panic attack. "Just the essentials. The movers will bring the rest," she said, like that cleared anything up. She stepped forward like she owned the place. I blocked the door. That moment, me standing there in a hoodie holding a half-eaten breakfast burrito, looking at my own mother like she was a stranger, I think that's when it finally clicked. She wasn't here to visit. She wasn't kidding when she dropped hints over the past few months. The "I'd kill for a place with some light like this" comments. The "your couch is comfier than my bed" observations. All of it. She meant it. And now she was trying to cash in. But this time I wasn't the same scared kid who handed over her birthday money when Mom's boyfriend needed gas. "Mom, you can't stay here," I said. It felt like betrayal, saying it out loud. But it was true. Her smile faltered. "Clara, sweetheart, be serious. Where else am I supposed to go?" I didn't have an answer ready. What do you say to the woman who once told your high school boyfriend you weren't mature enough for a serious relationship? The same woman who once flushed a college acceptance letter because it was too far away? I should have said, "That's not my responsibility." I should have told her to go back to her apartment, call a friend, a sibling, literally anyone else. Instead, I hesitated. And in that hesitation, her eyes lit up like she'd won. But I held my ground. "Mom, I bought this house for me," I said, steady now. "Not for you. Not for anyone else." She blinked. Then her voice rose, familiar, sharp, practiced. "After everything I sacrificed for you? This is how you repay me." I didn't flinch. Not this time. She screamed, cried, begged. She said I was ungrateful, selfish, cold like your father. I stood there in the doorway of the one place that was finally mine and didn't let her in. That night, I sat in the sunroom alone, phone buzzing nonstop, my brother, my aunt, some unknown number that was probably my mother calling from someone else's phone. Each message chipped away at the peace I'd fought for. "You abandoned her. She's your mother. She needs you." But no one said, "How are you holding up?" Not one person asked me why I said no. The guilt is thick. But so is the relief. I finally stood up for myself. For real. Still, I can't shake the question that keeps creeping in. Did I do the right thing? The thing about my mom is she's magnetic. Not in a charming movie villain way. More like a black hole. She pulls people in with this mix of desperation and certainty, like helping her is a moral obligation you didn't know you had until she stares you down with those tired, pleading eyes. She used to tell people she was a single mom, doing it all on her own, which always got her sympathy and the last piece of cake at any family gathering. But the truth? I did more raising than she did. I was 12 when I started working after school, babysitting, walking dogs, sometimes cleaning houses with my best friend's older sister. At 14, I learned how to cook for both of us because Mom's boyfriend of the month hated store food. At 15, I stopped asking for birthday gifts because that money mysteriously went toward bills. But I still wanted her to be proud of me. That part never really went away. When I got my first real job out of college, she was thrilled. For all of 5 minutes. Then she wanted to know how soon I could help out with her rent. When I got promoted, she asked if I could cover a loan she co-signed by accident. She cried when I bought my first car, tears of joy, I thought, until she asked to borrow it. Permanently. And now, years later, after scraping together savings and sacrificing vacations and dinners out and every impulse buy that might have made life a little brighter, I stood at the threshold of my dream house and had to say no to the woman who made every version of no feel like betrayal. That's what people don't get. When I tell friends what happened, some of them say, "Well, she's your mom. Doesn't she deserve to enjoy the life you've built?" And I get that. I do. It sounds fair. But where was that fairness when I was 17 and she threw out my scholarship letter because New York's too far and too dangerous? When I had to take out extra loans because my college fund had mysteriously evaporated into urgent expenses? When I came home one night to find her in my bed with a guy who called me kiddo and offered me a beer? There was no fairness then. So when I closed the door and locked it, not rudely, not loudly, just firmly, I didn't feel like I was shutting her out. I felt like I was stepping into my life. And yet, that question lingered. What kind of daughter says no to her mother when she's got nowhere else to go? That night, I left the porch light off. Not out of spite, just self-preservation. I curled up on the couch, hugged my dog, and scrolled through the messages on my phone like they were evidence at a trial where I had to prove I wasn't the villain. Your mom's going through a lot. Maybe just let her stay a while. You're lucky to even have a mother. But no one knew the full story, except me. And now I had to decide what came next. Did I call her and apologize? Offer a compromise? Or hold the line and see just how much fallout I could take? The next morning, I found one of her planters smashed on the front steps. The fern was still there, uprooted and wilted, like a metaphor someone might have called too on the nose if it were in a movie. She was gone. The car, the boxes, all of it. Just the plant remained, dirt scattered like a message. You did this. I stared at it for a while. Part of me wanted to pick it up, repot it, give it the second chance she thought she deserved. Another part of me wanted to leave it there, let the rain wash it away. I brought it inside. I don't know why. Reflex, maybe. The messages kept rolling in. My brother Nate left a voicemail. You seriously turned her away? She had nowhere else to go, Clara. That's cold, even for you. That part stung. I always hated how he said things like, even for you. Like I was some heartless machine with no capacity for nuance or love. I almost texted back. Almost explained everything about the college fund, the acceptance letter, the way I used to cry in the school library because I didn't want to go home. I even typed it all out. Then deleted it. Because if he didn't see it by now, he wasn't going to. Later, my aunt called. Left a cheerful voicemail dripping with guilt masquerading as concern. Sweetheart, your mom's heartbroken. She's at my place now, but I don't think she's planning to stay. She's talking about selling her furniture. Staying in a motel. Clara, please. She's your mother. It was that line again. She's your mother. Like that was supposed to override every boundary I'd built. Every bruise left behind from years of emotional hostage-taking. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel anymore. Guilt, obviously. Relief, weirdly. Shame. And then something else. Something quieter, like a whisper I'd never had the courage to listen to before. Pride. Not the parade kind. Not the boasting kind. Just a soft, steady awareness that, for once, I hadn't folded. I hadn't made myself small so someone else could fit. Still, I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in the sunroom, watching the lights from my neighbor's porch flicker in the distance, my dog asleep at my feet, and I thought, if I let her back in now, I'll never get this life back. Not really. Not without a cost. I had to choose. Open the door and resume the cycle, or leave it closed and risk becoming the villain in her story. The texts kept coming. But I'd already made my decision. I turned off my phone. And in the quiet, I finally breathed like the house was mine. The silence didn't last. By Tuesday, the family group chat, which had mostly been memes, happy birthday messages, and my aunt's weird daily devotionals, was lit up like a 5-alarm fire. Nate. Can't believe you really kicked her out. Aunt Jan. We all have to make sacrifices, Clara. Mom. You made your choice. Just know I'll remember it. That one hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was trying to survive. But when your family has spent decades training you to believe that their happiness is your responsibility, stepping away feels like setting the whole house on fire. My cousin Becca DM'd me separately. Hey, I know things are crazy right now, but proud of you. Seriously. It was the first message that didn't feel like an ambush. I stared at her text, heart hammering. Just those few words, proud of you, and I felt like crying. Not because they fixed anything, but because they acknowledged something no one else had. That I was trying to save myself, not destroy anyone else. I didn't respond right away. Didn't know how to say thank you without sounding like I was drowning. Later that day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, it was my mom's voice, low, trembling, and unfamiliar. You know, I gave up a lot for you. Your father walked out and I didn't fold. I held us together. I missed out on things. On life. And now you've got your little house and your little dog and your little garden, and I guess that's enough for you. But I hope it keeps you warm when you're old and alone. Click. No goodbye. Just static. That was the first time I felt it, not guilt, but rage. Because let's talk about sacrifice, shall we? Let's talk about the birthday money that vanished before I ever got to spend it. The school trip I missed because she needed gas money for a weekend getaway with Brian or Steve or whoever it was that month. The way she cried so hard when I brought up moving out for college that I gave up my dream school just to keep her together. That wasn't sacrifice. That was manipulation dressed up in sentiment. And now she wanted to weaponize loneliness like it was something I hadn't already survived? I took a deep breath and did something I never thought I'd do. I blocked her number. And for the first time in 28 years, my phone was quiet. Too quiet. But underneath that silence? Freedom. It didn't take long for the narrative to flip. By Thursday, I wasn't just the ungrateful daughter. I was the girl who abandoned her mother to sleep on a couch. That's what Nate told my uncle at dinner, apparently. My friend Sam, who still gets invited to the occasional family thing because her mom and my aunt are tight, texted me the recap. She said you slammed the door in her face and left her crying in the driveway. Everyone at the table just nodded like it was gospel. I didn't slam anything. I didn't even raise my voice. But facts don't hold up well against martyrdom. She looked so small, Sam added. Like she shrank 2 sizes overnight. And I know Sam meant it kindly, but that image, my mom looking fragile and defeated, rattled me more than any accusation. Because that's how she wins. Not with fists or fury. With weakness. It's what made me drive her to appointments she could have taken the bus to. What made me cancel job interviews so I could babysit her new boyfriend's kid. What made me feel like a monster for wanting space. She didn't say no, she just got sick. Tired. Too overwhelmed. Too anxious. I can't do this without you, Clara. And suddenly it was my job to fix everything. Now the family was stepping into that same role. Picking up where I left off, Jan offered her the guest room. Nate gave her a little help with groceries. Becca sent me a photo of the fern I thought I rescued, now proudly perched in Jan's kitchen window, captioned, "She said you didn't want it." I wanted to scream. Instead, I bought new curtains for the sunroom. Because if they were going to tell stories about me, I might as well make the setting match. That weekend, Becca came over. She brought snacks and cheap wine and a hug that made something in my chest uncoil. "I know it's messy," she said, curling up on the couch with me. "But you were right. She just expects everyone to orbit around her." I nodded, too tired to cry, too wound up to speak. Becca handed me her glass. "Drink. You've earned at least that much." Later, we sat in the garden listening to cicadas scream like the world was ending. I told her everything, things I'd never said out loud before. About the missing money. The acceptance letter. The guilt. When I finished, she just said, "Damn." Then, "Do you think she even knows how much she hurt you?" I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I don't think she cares enough to ask. And finally saying that, felt like ripping off a bandage and realizing the wound had scarred over while I wasn't looking. The letter came in a floral envelope with my full name written in script I recognized instantly. Patricia Kelly's handwriting. The kind she reserved for sympathy cards and holiday newsletters, the elegant kind meant to impress neighbors and guilt her children. Inside was a single page. Cream-colored. Heavy stock. Like she'd chosen her stationery carefully, the way people do when they're not just writing, they're crafting a legacy. "Clara, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. You've made your feelings clear. I just hope, in time, you'll remember who really stood by you when no one else did." That part nearly made me laugh. Who? Her? The woman who once told me not to cry after my dad bailed because it makes us look weak? "I won't bother you anymore. I'm staying with Jan for now, but it's temporary. I just wish you'd shown more gratitude before shutting the door in my face. Someday you'll understand what it means to sacrifice for someone. I hope you never have to." No apology. No reflection. Just a soft-edged threat dressed up as wisdom. I folded the letter slowly, slipped it back into the envelope and tucked it into a drawer I rarely open, the one with expired coupons, broken pens, and receipts I don't need but can't throw away. It belonged there. That night, Nate called again. I let it go to voicemail. "Look, I don't care what she did when we were kids. She's still her mom. She's not perfect, but who is? You really gonna hold a grudge for the rest of your life?" That's the thing with Nate, he thinks all wounds are just misunderstandings. That we're all one good Thanksgiving dinner away from forgiveness. I used to think that too. Until I stopped mistaking survival for love. Later, I sat in the garden with my dog curled up beside me. I watched the solar lights flicker on one by one, casting soft halos over the plants I'd finally had time to tend to. It was peaceful. And also it wasn't. Because peace, I was learning, isn't quiet. It's knowing you did the hard thing. The thing that made you the villain in everyone else's story just so you could finally be the hero in your own. I still didn't know what would happen next. Would my family write me off? Would she twist the story so badly I couldn't show up at a barbecue without someone giving me the side eye? Probably. But I had drawn the line. And no matter how much they begged, shamed, or rewrote history, I wasn't crossing it. It had been almost 3 weeks since I'd seen her face. Then she showed up at my gate. Not the door, my gate. The wooden one that wraps around the back garden, the one I keep locked because I like knowing there's at least one part of my life no one can walk into. I didn't recognize the knock at first. It was softer than usual, hesitant. Like whoever was on the other side wasn't sure if they wanted to be let in or turned away. I opened it halfway. She looked older. Not in a tragic, withered way, just tired. Like a person who hadn't been told no in a long time and didn't know what to do with herself now that it had happened. I'm not staying, she said quickly, clutching a beige purse I remembered from years ago. I needed to see where you live. Really live. I said nothing. Just leaned against the doorframe while my dog, sensing my tension, stood guard by my leg. She looked around the garden like she was trying to memorize it. Or judge it. Or maybe both. It's nice, she finally said. Peaceful. I nodded. She cleared her throat. You always wanted your own place. Even as a kid. I remember how you used to rearrange your bedroom every month. You used to call it a control issue, I said. She flinched. A full beat of silence passed between us. I didn't come to fight, she said, her voice quiet. But you didn't come to apologize either, I replied. She hesitated. I don't know what you want from me, Clara. That was the most honest thing she'd said in years. Because really, what did I want? An apology wouldn't fix the past. A hug wouldn't erase the fear that if I let her in once, I'd never get my boundaries back. And despite what people think, cutting someone off doesn't come with a manual. Just 1,000 questions and no instructions. I don't want anything, I said. That's kind of the point. Her face twisted, not in anger, but in something closer to confusion. Like she couldn't imagine a version of me that didn't want something from her. She stood there for a few more seconds, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. I found this in storage, she said. Figured it might belong here. She placed it gently on the ground, then turned to leave. I didn't pick it up until she was gone. Inside was a snow globe I'd loved as a kid. Cracked. Dusty. The paint chipping on the base. But when I shook it, the glitter still floated. I didn't tell anyone she came by. Not Becca, not Sam, not even the friend who always says you should write a book about your family, it'd sell like crazy. I kept it to myself because I knew what the responses would be. She's trying. Maybe this is the first step. See? She does care. And yeah, maybe she does. In her way. But that's the thing no one really tells you. People can care about you and still hurt you every time you let them close. Later that night, I put the snow globe on the shelf in my sunroom. Not because I forgave her, but because that part of me, the kid who used to shake it and imagine she lived inside, deserved to be remembered too. The following week, I got a text from Nate. Mom's saying you made things worse. That she tried and you slammed the door again. What actually happened? I stared at the screen. The temptation to explain was strong. To clarify. To walk him through every look, every word, every hidden barb in her visit. But I realized something. I didn't owe him or anyone else a version of the truth that made my boundaries easier to digest. So I typed back. She came. I listened. I didn't bend. That's the whole story. He left me on read. Becca came over a few days later. We made tea and sat in the sunroom. The dog stretched out at our feet. I told her what happened. All of it. She just nodded. You know, she said, tracing the rim of her mug. People think drawing lines is harsh, but sometimes it's the kindest thing you can do. For yourself. For everyone. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure if I agreed. But I knew one thing. I didn't regret it. Not the refusal. Not the locked door. Not even the guilt that still stirred up like sediment every now and then. Because I was finally living a life that didn't revolve around managing someone else's emotions. And that was peace. Not the absence of noise. Just the absence of her voice in my head. It's been 2 months. I haven't heard from her again. Not directly. I see traces of her in the usual places. Jan posts vague quotes about forgiveness. Nate drops passive-aggressive barbs on Facebook like he's waiting for me to comment. But I don't bite. The house is quiet now. Not eerily quiet. Not the kind that creeps in around loneliness. The good kind. The kind where you can hear your own thoughts without needing to shrink them to fit someone else's mood. I hung new wind chimes on the back porch. Copper ones that sing when the breeze hits just right. The garden's doing well. Sunflowers finally opened. My dog loves to lay under them, half hidden in the shade, ears twitching like he's guarding the perimeter of our tiny kingdom. Sometimes I sit in the sunroom at dusk, the snow globe next to a potted basil plant, and I wonder, what would have happened if I'd said yes? If I'd let her in? Let her stay for a while? Let the cycle begin again under a new roof with nicer paint and stronger locks? Maybe we would have coexisted, for a little while. Until the first time she asked for a little help, or rearranged something just to make it more welcoming, or cried over some imagined slight I hadn't even seen coming. And slowly, this space I fought so hard to build would stop feeling like mine. That's what people forget when they talk about second chances. Someone still has to live with the door being open. I got a postcard last week, from a motel 2 towns over. No return name, but the handwriting was hers. I miss you. I'll always miss you. Maybe someday you'll see things my way. I didn't respond. I put the card in the same drawer with the letter. And then I opened the window beside it, just an inch to let the air through. Not to invite her back in, but to remind myself, I can choose what I let in now. Update. Hey again. It's been a couple months since I posted about turning my mom away when she showed up at my new house with bags. Assuming she'd just move in. Quick recap. I said no. The fallout was nuclear. Family drama. Guilt trips. Emotional booby traps. Anyway, here's what's happened since. She stayed with my aunt for a while but didn't last long. Word is she's bouncing between motels and couch hopping. That part sucks. I don't wish instability on anyone. But I also can't pretend like it's my job to fix it anymore. My brother still isn't talking to me, which hurts more than I expected. We weren't super close, but there was this unspoken bond. I guess I thought it ran deeper. Turns out, his loyalty has a default setting. Mom first. I got a postcard. No return address. Just a message in her handwriting. I miss you. Maybe someday you'll understand. I didn't respond. I won't. The house? Still mine. Still peaceful. Still filled with tiny victories. New curtains? Blooming basil. My dog learning to nudge the wind chimes when he wants attention. I think what I've learned through all this is, boundaries don't come with applause. People won't always understand when you draw the line. Some will call you cruel for choosing yourself. But peace? Peace doesn't beg for understanding. It just shows up, quietly, and stays. Thanks to everyone who encouraged me to hold the line. You helped more than you know.